I know that most politicians don't want to talk to us. Good. We don't want to talk to them either. We want them to talk to the scientists instead. Listen to them. Because we are just repeating what they are saying and have been saying for decades. Just unite behind the science. That is our demand. When many politicians talk about the school strike for the climate, they talk about almost anything except from the climate crisis. Many people are trying to make the school strikes a question of whether we are promoting truancy or whether we should go back to school or not. They don't want to talk about it because they know they cannot win this fight. Because they know they haven't done their homework, but we have.
The mere fact that climate change is a prominent issue in the world today indicates that we're living in the last days.
Strikingly, it has been advanced not only by Pope Francis, but by religious leaders, scientists, politicians, and now children and youth, that climate change is primarily man-made, which means that humans must be blamed.
Papa Francisco, esta es Greta, la chica famosa, vino especialmente para conocerte y hablar en serio.
Thank you for standing up for the climate, speaking the truth, and really, it means a lot.
Because you continue to walk, eh? Continue, eh? Y Francisco, aquí estamos hablando de a nivel mundial.
Están sacando
sí.
La foto.
¿Te parece que podrán posar juntos?
Están sacando la foto.
Dale.
De esta manera natural, queda mejor.
Dale. ¿Quieres tenerlo tú? Así que esa es la foto.
Que Dios te bendiga. God bless you. Un beso mío.
I want you to act as if the house was on fire. I have said those words before, and a lot of people has explained why that is a bad idea. A great number of politicians have told me that panic never leads to anything good. And I agree. To panic unless you have to is a terrible idea. But when your house is on fire and you want to keep your house from burning to the ground, then that does require some level of panic. We are in the midst of the 6th mass extinction, and the extinction rate is up to 10,000 times faster than what is considered normal, with up to 200 species becoming extinct every single day. Erosion of fertile topsoil, deforestation of our great forests, toxic air pollution, loss of insects and wildlife, the acidification of our oceans. These are all disastrous trends being accelerated by a way of life that we, here in our financially fortunate part of the world, see as our right to simply carry on. Our house is falling apart, and our leaders need to start acting accordingly, because at the moment they are not. If our house was falling apart, our leaders wouldn't go on like you do today. You would change almost every part of your behavior, as you do in an emergency, If our house was falling apart, you wouldn't hold 3 emergency Brexit summits and no emergency summit regarding the breakdown of the climate and environment. The EU elections are coming up soon, and many of us who will be affected the most by this crisis, people like me, are not allowed to vote. Nor are we in a position to shape the decisions of business, politics, engineering, media, education or science. Because the time it takes for us to educate ourselves to do that simply does no longer exist. And that is why millions of children are taking it to the streets, school striking for the climate to create attention for the climate crisis. You need to listen to us, we who cannot vote. You need to vote for us, for your children and grandchildren. What we are doing now can soon no longer be undone. In this election, you vote for the future living conditions for humankind. And though the politics needed do not exist today, some alternatives are certainly less worse than others. And I have read that some parties do not even want me standing here today because they so desperately do not want to talk about climate breakdown. To do your best is no longer good enough. We must all do the seemingly possible. And it's okay if you refuse to listen to me. I am, after all, just a 16-year-old schoolgirl from Sweden. But you cannot ignore the scientists or the science or the millions of school striking children who are school striking for the right to a future. I beg you, please do not fail on this.